welcome to Tales of Honor Podcast, a podcast dedicated to telling the true stories of every recipient of the Medal of Honor. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Tales of Honor Podcast. I'm your host, Christoph Ambrosch, and today's piece of Medal of Honor news comes to you from Norfolk, Virginia. Last Saturday was the commissioning of a U.S. Navy warship that is going to be named the USS Herschel Woody Williams. Woody is the last surviving Medal of Honor recipient from the Battle of Iwo Jima, and he was present on that day in Norfolk to be there for the commissioning. And this is an expeditionary sea base that was built and launched in 2017. And now that it's commissioned, it's being redesignated from a support ship to a warship, and its command being transferred from the Military Sea Lift Command to Naval Surface Force Atlantic. When asked about the commissioning, Woody did say that this was a, quote, moment in history that is beyond my comprehension, end quote. He also went on to say, quote, may all those who serve aboard this ship that bears my name be safe and proud. May she have God's blessings for a long life of service to America, the greatest country on earth, end quote. And that's all I got for right now for this little edition of Medal of Honor current events and news. Now we can move on with episode 289, going back to World War I. And now, a tale of honor. In St. Clair, Pennsylvania, Joel was born on the 2nd of August, 1889, and he attended a private preparatory school before going to Hahnemann Medical College in Philadelphia. He graduated in June of 1913 with a medical degree and went on to graduate school at the U.S. Navy Medical School in Washington, D.C., shortly after receiving a commission in the U.S. Navy as a lieutenant junior grade. Once he graduated, Joel was transferred from the Navy Reserve to active duty and served with the Marine Corps Expeditionary Force during the Haiti campaign. Once the U.S. entered into World War I, Joel received orders to be transferred to the USS Wyoming, and he served as surgeon with the U.S. Marine Corps' 6th Regiment in France. It was his actions here that earned him the Medal of Honor. The citation reads, for extraordinary heroism, conspicuous gallantry, and intrepidity while serving with the 6th Regiment, U.S. Marines, in actual conflict with the enemy, with absolute disregard for personal safety, ever conscious and mindful of the suffering fallen, Surgeon Boone, leaving the shelter of a ravine, went forward onto the open field where there was no protection, and despite the extreme enemy fire of all calibers, through a heavy mist of gas, applied dressings and first aid to wounded Marines. This occurred southeast of Vierzy, near the cemetery, and on the road south from that town. When the dressings and supplies had been exhausted, he went through a heavy barrage of large-caliber shells, both high explosive and gas, to replenish these supplies, returning quickly with his sidecar load and administered them in saving the lives of the wounded. A second trip under the same conditions for the same purpose was made by Surgeon Boone later that day. Several days before these actions, Joel had continued treatment of Marines during heavy shelling, and this had earned him the Distinguished Service Cross. 2 months later, Joel was promoted to lieutenant commander, and he went on to serve as the director of the Bureau of Naval Affairs at the American Red Cross headquarters before reporting to the USS Mayflower as the medical officer to President Harding. He took detailed notes on the failing health of the president and the First Lady's kidney disease, and was with the president right up to his final moments on the 2nd of August, 1923. Joel continued his capacity, but now to President Coolidge, and went on to also serve Presidents Hoover and Roosevelt. Joel was promoted to Commodore in April of 1945 and became the Fleet Medical Officer to Commander of the 3rd Fleet, and was assigned to providing care and evacuation of the Japanese prisoners of war from the Omari camp in Tokyo. When 3 boarding parties left on the 31st of August 1945, Joel was in the first Higgins boat and was the first American ashore with an eagerness to help the starved and suffering in any way. He was also the only unarmed American during this mission, and he was met with extreme excitement and gratitude. Days later, Joel stood behind General MacArthur during Japan's surrender on board the USS Missouri. After World War II, Joel became the 11th Naval District's medical officer and went on to be the executive secretary on the Secretary of Defense's Committee on Medical and Hospital Services of the Armed Forces. When the Korean War began, Joel was the Inspector General of the Medical Department and went to Korea, making it the third major war to have served in. He was instrumental in the development of helicopter pads aboard hospital ships and was the first to conduct a medical and safety survey of U.S. coal mines. Due to a physical disability, he retired shortly after being promoted to Vice Admiral in December of 1950 after 36 years of service and being the most highly decorated medical officer in naval history and only one of two to receive the Medal of Honor. In addition to his Medal of Honor and Distinguished Service Cross, Joel had also earned 5 Silver Stars, a Bronze Star with Valor, and 2 Purple Hearts. Even after all that he had accomplished during his service, he still went on to serve as the medical director for the Department for Veteran Affairs until 1955. Joel Theodore Boone lived out his retirement in Washington, D.C. with his wife Helen until his death on the 2nd of April, 1974, at the age of 84. He is buried in Arlington National Cemetery with his wife. Section 11, Grave 137-2. And that was a Tale of Honor. Thank you for listening to Tales of Honor Podcast. Head on over to talesofhonorpodcast.com where you can read these stories, see other ways to support the show, and easily share a story with your friends and family. Tales of Honor Podcast is written and produced by Christoph Ambrosch, and theme song, A New Beginning, is by Ben Sound. If you have any questions or comments, you can send them to talesofhonorpodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, I'm Christoph Ambrosch. Thanks for listening.